Okay, but wouldn't it be nice to have a professional financial coach? Somebody to help look after the little creepy crawlies that eat away at our discretionary income while we're not paying attention? Well, today you have one right in front of you, not me, her. Okay, Nancy Ward is not some snooty stuffed shirt banker looking to lecture you on investment vehicles. She is one of us. She's here to lead you on a non-judgmental, non-confrontational deep dive into the abyss known as personal finance. And over the next 30 minutes, you will see why Nancy is the person to talk to when it's time to have that difficult conversation. But this conversation is going to be easy. It's just you and me, Nancy. How you doing?
Fantastic. Well, thanks for having me today.
Thanks for having me. So you and I had an interesting conversation, and I almost felt jealous of the people who run up credit card debt because you have so many ways to help them. But let me ask you, I already know the answer to this question. Are you here to help us all get filthy rich?
That would be fantastic, but you need to have some extra money in order to get filthy rich.
Okay, so it's not about promising to get people rich, but more about practical day-to-day solutions.
Yes.
But why do American consumers have so much debt?
There's a few different reasons, but I'm in the Gen X, and I'm sure a lot of Gen Xers can relate. We grew up in a society where if we didn't have the money, we didn't buy it. We went to the grocery store and paid by check, and we didn't have direct deposits. You got a check, you went to the bank, you put it in the bank, and then you paid your bills. And what happens is we all grew up, and then all of a sudden the internet was there, and we got credit cards, and we're shopping because we didn't have these things when we were growing up. So now I'm an adult and I've got money and I'm going to go buy something. And that habit didn't stop. So a lot of us have just purchased and purchased and purchased and have so much stuff that we have all this debt. And the sad thing is when you say, "Oh, I'm getting paid today. Where am I going to spend my money?" Well, you already spent the money because now you have credit card debt because you didn't pay it off at the time it was due. And I think that's really one of the reasons why. And yes, you can blame the economy and you can blame all these different things, but really and truly, the person that you need to blame is yourself because you put yourself into that situation in order to get all that extra debt that was not paid off at the time that the statement was due.
Very true. And you talk about some people just not paying attention. Why is it that people don't? I mean, you're in the business of helping people pay attention to the elephant in the room that they just don't want to look at. Why don't people want to confront something so simple as debt and interest that they're paying?
It's embarrassment, it's guilt, it's judgment. If you have a spouse and you all of a sudden went on a spending spree and your spouse is like, what the heck did you buy this for? Again, how you were raised to either save money, spend money, what have you, you have that embarrassment that, oh gosh, I spent a lot of the money and I guess I was supposed to use that for the groceries. So a
Oops.
lot of people have that extra guilt of how did I get, I'm responsible. I'm an adult. I make good money. How did I get to this point? And sometimes it is your spending, but it also could be the flat tire and the dog needed to go to the vet and anything else that just starts coming up that you don't think about the expenses or you have the money for because you spent it on something else.
So we all have our impulse buys, obviously. But
Yes.
you and I talked about kind of that unconscious spending, and I equate it to just sit around snacking. If you're watching the Super Bowl, you can pound an entire bag of Doritos before you even look down and see what the hell did I just eat? And
Right.
is that how does that relate? How does that compare to unconscious spending?
Basically the same thing. And I when people say, "Oh yeah, well if I work with you, you're gonna tell me to stop drinking my coffees." No, that is not how I do it because if that's your self-care, by all means, I'm no problem. But when I'm working with the client and they're looking at what they're spending their money on, they're starting to realize, "Oh, every time I go get gas, I'm going inside and I'm grabbing $7 to $10 worth of junk food." So just like dieting, if you want to lose weight, you don't eat the cookies. How do you not eat the cookies? Don't buy them at the grocery store. So
Okay.
you have to get into a little bit of new habits, because it's just so easy to say, "Oh, I'm going to buy this because I have the money." Well, yeah, you have the money, but are you paying off that credit card bill at the end of the billing cycle?
Gotcha. So it sounds like a lot of takeout and different things. I mean, listen, if you're a Starbucks person, you're a Starbucks person, but that is a pretty hefty expense for some people who can't quite, they're kind of on the margins.
Well, I mean, it's not just Starbucks nowadays. I mean, we all make fun of Starbucks and the $6 coffee, but anybody on this call can say, the last time I went to my favorite restaurant, that sandwich that used to be $3 to $4 is now 7. So how is it that it compares? Because, you can go to a fast food place, drive through, and at $7 or $8 later, you get a Arby's roast beef sandwich. How did that go from 5 for $5 to now $7 for one? And I laugh about, the Subway, right? It used to be $6 footlongs. Now their new marketing campaign is 6 inches for $6. It's like, wait a
Oh,
minute.
just double
How
the
did we go
prices.
from a $5 footlong to a 6 inch sandwich for $6? But that's just what the reality is of these days. And so you have to make those better choices. It's not of, hey, do I really need this? Is, should I really buy this? And as business owners, most of us are solopreneurs or business owners or part of a small business. It's easy to say, oh, well, I'll just get that app. Oh, I'll just get that whatever. And as business owners, are we actually paying attention to what we're spending? Yes, I need the Canva membership, but do I need this? And do I need this? And do I need this? So it's the same kind of concept where we're not really paying attention, but as business owners, it's a tax write off. It's a tax write off. It's a tax write off. It's like a self justification that you can spend. And it's the same thing of, well, I need to eat. So let me go ahead and just grab a 20-ounce drink and a roller sandwich. I mean, it's the same thing where we have to be very conscious about how we're spending and where can we save.
We're seeing some really interesting comments. It's so funny that it's so Gen X to say, oh, the credit card and the debit card. Apparently, credit and debit cards for old people now. Like the millennials are the old folks using the credit card because now we have beep, 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 tap the app. And we have a comment about door dashing. And you order a pizza and you spend double the money on it I'm glad to see people are making money door dashing, but at the same time, look how it's running up. So we talk about impulse spending, and obviously credit card interest is also a killer.
Yes.
Is there any other creepy crawly that's just kind of before we get to how to manage a paycheck versus business revenue, which is not quite as stable?
Yes.
Before we get to that, are there any other creepy crawlies that are kind of eating away at our discretionary income?
You did hit the nail on the head, is interest. And I had a workshop earlier this morning and I said the exact same thing, is that we're not realizing how much extra we're paying each month in interest fees. So if you look at your latest credit card statement and you didn't pay it off, which again, no judgment, life happens, we've all been there, no big deal. But if you looked at it and said, "Oh wow, I just got charged $85.22 an interest," you basically tipped your credit card $85 for the convenience of you not paying off that credit card debt. If
Brutal.
that doesn't like knock on your head to go, ooh, I need to make a change, I'm not sure what will. But also, too, okay, so your Visa, MasterCard, Discover, I'm sure your ranges are anywhere from 19% to maybe 29, 30%. But if you have something like a Carter's or Kohl's or Target or Costco, any of those non Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, you start at like 31% and go up to almost 39%.
Oh, that's a
Oh, yeah,
expensive pair of socks.
exactly. So, you know, you can go to any of those stores and pay with cash or your MasterCard or Visa. You don't need to use their card. And especially if you carry a balance, you're paying more money for nothing. So if you're kicking yourself about, hey, I'm spending too much money on X, Y, or Z, work on that credit card debt because you're paying a lot of money to not pay it off on time.
All right, so we've gotten tapped into some of the frustrations that people have and some of the pitfalls. Let's
Yes.
talk about Nancy. What's up? When I finally say, you know what, Nancy, I'm putting half my paycheck into credit card interest. I still owe the same amount of money. Help. What does it look like to work with you?
Well, we're going to look at all of the data that you have. It's confidential, non-judgmental. It's it's just a fact of life. And I'm not here to, again, like I said, I'm not going to tell you don't drink your Starbucks, but we're going to evaluate everything and see where your cash flow is, because what I've really noticed about a lot of the clients, and here's just a tip for you as well if you want to manage a little bit of your money a little bit better, is that so many people who have that 9 to 5, and whether you have that now or had it before, you're going to relate to this, where you got paid, but all of your bills are due at the first of the month or the fifth of the month or whatever. And you have top heavy bills in the bottom of the month. You're like, okay, now I got the money, so I'm going to go ahead and spend it. So we're going to manage your money to look at it and say, what's the best way to pay down these bills and pay, these different types of expenses that are coming up. Because what ends up happening is that when we have that extra money, we want to spend it and we're not allocating it in the right spot. So that is one of the first things that I do is I look at that. And it's amazing how many people say, well, maybe I don't need that, or maybe I can move a credit card to later in the month as far as it being due. Because if you haven't looked at your numbers, that's what's going on. And unfortunately, a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs will not look at those numbers of how much did I spend every single month on my business until March. But if you have a heartbeat of your business on a monthly basis of, oh, I've spent this much money for the year, and you continuously go every single month, obviously we want to make money. A lot of us don't want to pay taxes. I get it. But you could only write off based on what you made. And if you're not making, but you're spending,
The write-offs don't matter. There's nothing to write off anyway. You just have no money. I want to chime in. Holly is going crazy every time. The magic word here is Starbucks. Hey, she's going, no. We talked about, she knows every little chemistry set that's involved in making some of our positive favorite takeaway food and beverage, but that's another conversation. So, but it sounds like just the fact that you have the conversation
yeah,
empowers people to make the right decisions in their consumer lives in a
right.
way
And every client is different because they have different situations, just like you said about a repeatable income versus a non-repeatable income. And if you're focused on building your business, you might not be focused on your personal finances, and that might start to drop. And you need to have that balance between both your personal and your business finances. And a lot of startup businesses or early entrepreneurs are putting things on their personal credit card. So when they get to a point where they're
Oh,
getting better with everything in their business and they say, "Ooh, I want to get a loan," your business has no credibility because you don't have invoices, which is completely understandable as a beginning entrepreneur. It's, hey, just pay me through Venmo or PayPal or send me a check or what have you. You're not getting that billing out there to your vendors. So if you say, hey bank, or hey business bank, I'm looking to get a loan in order to go to do a project or a new launch, they're going to look at your personal credit score, not your business credit score, because you don't have a business credit score at that point in time.
so that's
So,
the difference now between a
yeah,
personal, your personal, managing your personal finances, which is as
yes,
simple as count out the money before you spend it. Be careful of those top heavy bills where there's money left over at the end of the month. It's free money. That's almost a game. As long as you
yeah,
win, it's a great game. But when it comes to business, you're saying, and I'm guilty of this. I'm not going to show you my bank statement, but people commingle their personal and business finances.
yes,
They enroll in that course, they buy those memberships like you're saying, and it's all on their personal credit card. So in other words, build up credit for the business.
Right. But also, too, at the end of the year, if you're ready to go ahead and do your taxes, are you going to remember all of those transactions? And
Uh,
one suggestion would also be, too, is to, if you have an extra credit card that you have available, use that only for business expenses. Yes, you're still not building business credit, but at least you're keeping the receipts separate. So that would be an option, too.
very smart. Okay. This
Mhm.
is more real life kind of practical things.
Right.
How rigid, that's great because a financial planner is gonna pull out a big, looks like a war room with this big chart and everything. How rigid, how rigid is the budget once they work with you? How is it down
Well,
to the penny, or how much do I have to plan before I spend? I want to enjoy my money.
exactly. Well, just one quick thing is that I am not a financial planner or advisor. I don't work on the building of the wealth with investments and retirement. I work with your wallet and your credit cards. So just that is a misconception that a financial coach might do that. Some people are certified. I am not. I do, I have my IRA, my 401k. I have it over there, but that's not my superpower. My superpower is helping you with your bank account. Um, I was so
Okay.
excited to tell you that I forgot what the question was.
Well, the question was about just how strict, no, that's very
Oh,
true.
oh,
But
oh, oh, yeah.
how
How
strict is a
rigid is
budget?
your budget? Right.
Yes.
So again, too, we're going to look at everything, and we could do it line by line. We could do it by category and so forth. But you, you as a business owner, you as a personal finance person, you are going to be managing how much money you have. And you are going to have to take some sacrifices if you want to focus on getting some credit card debt. Now, I'm not saying we're doing rice and beans, but if that means that you reduce how many times you go to Starbucks in the given week or the given month, then great. Otherwise, there's other alternatives for you to either find additional income or reduce the expenses. And I'm not going to sit there and look at your but I mean, I can look at your budget, but I'm not going to tell you, no, 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 it needs to be $95 instead of $120 to go to the grocery store, because life is so different. I mean, whether it's where you live, how much things cost, or what you need to buy when you go to the grocery store. So it's an overall concept, but your my clients see wins when they start looking at their expenses and how they're spending and what their habits are, that they can make those changes and have more wiggle room in order to put more down to a credit card in order to get down that debt.
It's unbelievable that part of the problem that you solve is just to have people look at what they should have been looking at all along. So now we've got 30 people who stuck around, and that's so awesome. It would be the optimal thing to do would be to get on a call with Nancy, start the conversation, and decide if you want her to be your co-pilot and how you spend your money. Start seeing those bills come down, or the quality of life maintains or even goes up, and reduces your stress. But for the meantime, just in case they're not available immediately, because they're working a second job to pay down that credit card bill, they don't have time to talk to you. What is something they can do right now just to get the foot slightly on the gas pedal in the direction? What's something to do right now without getting a second job, without hitting the jackpot, the Powerball? What can they do now?
They can just look at what they're spending. And you kind of ask that question, is that why is it all of a sudden now people are not looking at their finances? Well, gone are the days of the checkbook where we would enter in every deposit and every transaction. As we talked about before, it's tap and pray, hope, tap and pay, hoping and praying that you have enough money. And because we're not physically pulling money out of a wallet, we're not seeing money move. It is all digital. And you're right, those millennials and younger, they're not even thinking about how money works because it's always just there electronically in their bank account. So
Yeah.
the us older generations have a different system of how we would run our money, but how many of us don't? How many of us don't look at our money? So what I would suggest you do is that you go into your app or onto your website of your credit card, and there's going to be a little spot there that says either see all the transactions or run the report, because everybody gets that email from their credit card come January. Would you like to see what your spending was for last year? And everybody goes, delete. Nobody wants to know, but you can actually go and look at that on the credit card's app or website in order to say, okay, how much did I spend in January? How much did I spend in February? And that's where I come up with those examples of how the heck did I spend this? Oh, yeah, I had a flat tire. I needed to get 4 new tires. And it was the time when I needed to get the 60,000 inspection for my car. And all of a sudden, my transportation, an automobile category, it's not a budget, but a category of spending was $1,500. No wonder why I have no more money, because I had to charge that, and that's why it went up to my debt. So it's just really a lot of awareness and
Right.
taking the blinders off and saying, okay, yes, I need to look at my numbers. And I'm letting you know that you start looking at your numbers, you're going to be more aware, and you're going to see what kind of changes that you can make in order to have a better
Got it.
future with your finances.
Good to see that you're there to help people brainstorm so it's not so foggy. But you talked about how people used to write everything down.
Yes.
So you're saying writing everything down is a good idea. Now, Nancy, this is your
No,
opportunity.
I didn't say
This
that.
is your opportunity. Plug it in, launch it to the
I
moon.
know.
This is your shot. Where, oh, where could I possibly write down all my expenses? That's the blue. Oh,
In my
there it is,
financial
right
journal,
over your
yes.
shoulder. How about that? Tell it, come on, Nancy. You earned
But
it. You
it's
educated
just
us.
like counting calories. It is literally just like counting calories. Nobody wants to count calories. They don't want to write down every single purchase that they've made. So what I did, because again, I don't budget. If you don't want to budget, that's great. You work with me, because I'm gonna teach you how to save money without budgeting. But what it does is that it takes that data. You pick up your phone. What happens every time you pick up your phone? You get distracted. It's like, all I wanted to do was check the weather. And all of a sudden now I'm reading emails and text messages and things like that. So with this financial journal, you can have all of those data points. So you can actually physically take it and say, hey, honey, let's go on a money date. And we're going to bring the book with us and we're going to talk about it, because you and I said, hey, we've got our 25-year anniversary trip going on. We need to have the money for it. We want to do it debt free. How do we do this? Let's look at the journal. Let's see what we've been spending. Let's see where we can get rid of some of this extra expense. Can you work an extra few hours of overtime? Can we have a side hustle? Hey, it's summertime. Let's have some garage sales. There's so many different ideas that are in this journal. But again, when you look at it in black and white and you write it down, it's a totally different game. So again, I'm not asking you to write a checkbook. This is not a checkbook. This is not counting calories. This is not writing down every single purchase that you make, but it's an overall snapshot of what's going on and how I can improve. So that is
Excellent.
what I can
Now,
provide.
that's awesome, Nancy. And I can add to that, the money date is, for many couples, is the most intimate conversation you've had in a long time. You really get to know, it's like getting to know your spouse all over again.
Yes.
It's almost like just starting over in the relationship. So that's very cool that you provide that, to have a real conversation, no swiping, no swiping or scrolling. No, hey, look, just the thought of it. There's something on YouTube right now I'm missing. So that's very
Right.
cool.
Because you look at it and say, wow, this is how much we brought in this month, and this is where expenses for the month. Where did we go wrong? And it's an opening conversation between you and your spouse or your partner.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
there to make sure it's not judgmental or confidential. That's very cool. Listen,
Yes.
as we're wrapping up, I want to encourage you to follow up with Nancy. That financial journal, it's 2025. You don't have to start from January, so it's there for you at any time to get
Right.
started. So until you're ready to work with her more directly, more intimately, that is definitely the way to go. The 2025 financial journal. It's not a
And it
12 month.
really, it is a 12-month journal. And the best part is that once you've figured out how to figure out what your category spending is, go back to January, write it down, because guess what? Most people have bills that come up in January. So when 2026 starts creeping around the corner, you can go back to January and say, oh, what are the things that I need to be paying attention to? So it's
Yeah.
more of like a diary than a calendar.
Very cool, very true, because I'll tell you, next month, I happen to know my Zoom is gonna roll over and it's an extra $10 for the year. At least I know about Zoom. I didn't know about Canva. I got hit for that one. I got hit for a couple other things. Oh no, first of the year subscriptions. So very cool about subscriptions, which is another thing.
Yes.
And you can talk to
Yep.
Nancy about that. I want to say we have a little bit of an ask. If you enjoyed this, please, Hade is going to put this on LinkedIn. Please, if you enjoyed this, a reaction and not just a like, that is like so Facebook 2010. Instead of a like, a real emoji and a real comment of what you learned, that'll promote this event for every week that we come back. A heart emoji, a haha emoji. If you want to talk about my yellow shirt, that's a backstory we had there. But please continue to interact with this, bring people to this. We want it to be the best of both worlds, an intelligent conversation and high speed to meet lots of people at the same time. So thank you, Nancy, for this opportunity. Thank you, Nancy and Hade, for putting this together. And for the 27 people in this room, thank you for playing the long game and adding an intelligent component to our speed networking. This is a complete, wholesome, robust networking opportunity. It's my great pleasure to host this interview.
Thank you so much.